Hi, this is Brass Check, and we're recording this on Sunday, Easter Sunday, April 4th. And we've got a lot of new members, a lot of new supporting subscribers, which I really appreciate. As you may know, we finally booted Google off of our site. They literally cut our revenue 90% over the years. They keep whittling it away, and then they became just outright bullies. Telling us what we could and could not run on our own site, and we finally had enough and sent them packing. So we have a little bit of a hole in our revenue, and it would be good if this thing were self-supporting and if it didn't all come out of my pocket to do it. And I think it's right that people that get the benefit of this material help support it. So if you're a supporter, thank you very much. And if you're not a supporter and you listen frequently and are able to support, you might look in the mirror there and wonder why you're not supporting the thing that's supporting you. Because I'll tell you, in this world, there aren't a whole lot of people supporting you anymore, in case you didn't notice, starting with the mainstream media, which has been a problem for a long time. For people that are relatively new to Brass Check, this is a project that has been going on since 1997. So that's right, 1997. So let me punch that into my calculator. That's 24 years. And it started out as a hobby in the sense that there was no thought of revenue. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I was amazed at the epic levels of corruption there. And I said, and longtime subscribers know this, because we were print only, because there was no video, and there wasn't even easy audio when we started. I said, if San Francisco does not get its act together, it's going to be the first digital banana republic in the United States of America. And by God, I was 1,000% accurate. If you've been tracking what's going on in San Francisco, that city is in a total state of collapse, and it all has to do with politics. And the person that I singled out back then was Willie Brown, who I estimated was the most corrupt politician in America, and one of the most corrupt in the history of America, and that if his version of politics didn't get stamped out, we were going to have a serious problem. Well, Kamala Harris, anybody heard of her? Former Willie Brown, we'll call her girlfriend. She was actually, well, there's a whole nother story about her, but basically a non-talent bum who slept her way to the top. And she's now effectively the president of the United States, in case you didn't notice, because we've got a guy in the office that can't even string two words together. And they're already, by the way, if you didn't notice, changing the nomenclature. It's now being called the Biden-Harris administration. You ever seen that before? Did you ever see the Bush-Quayle administration? Did you ever see the Obama-Biden administration? I don't think so. You can't even remember 9/10 of the vice presidents. But this vice president is going to be a president, and she is a protege of one of the most corrupt people ever to be a politician. Anyway, we called all this out 24 years ago in great detail. One of the other things that we did in exquisite detail is we looked at the level of election fraud in San Francisco elections, and we said, if somebody doesn't get a handle on this, someday we're going to have people in the White House that don't belong there. And it started with Bush. No fan of Gore, no fan of Kerry, but they both won those elections. Bush never should have been president. And as for Biden probably would have won without the fraud, but boy, the fraud was on an industrial scale. I mean, that's just a fact. And so who was reporting on this 24 years ago? Answer, nobody. So if you're a longtime subscriber, you know that. If you're a midterm subscriber, you may not know of our ancient roots, and if you're a new subscriber, you probably don't have any background on any of this at all. The other thing, we were the most meticulous and detailed in explaining what a military catastrophe it was going to be if the United States invaded Iraq. And we said it clearer than anybody on the planet. We weren't into the morality of it. We weren't into the loss of resources, the putting people in harm's way, but we really weren't into the strategic thing. And what we said in writing 6 months before idiot Bush invaded, if the U.S. invades Iraq, it's going to be worse than 1,000 Belfasts. Nobody else was as clear about that as Brass Check. And I thought I was exaggerating a little bit. I did the math numerically in terms of money lost and people killed and wounded and injured. It was worse than 1,000 Belfast. So one of our other great calls was in 2005, 2006. We said, hey, there's something really weird going on in the real estate finance world. They're financing anybody who can fog a mirror. This is not going to end well. And we called that pretty well. So we focus on health. We focus on geopolitics to a degree. And we also focus on macroeconomics. And we focus on detailing corruption, of which there's no shortage of. And as I said to my subscribers, I have a lot of projects. For people that think Brass Check is the only thing I do, I run one of the biggest jazz websites in the world. I also, believe it or not, am a better than average marketing advisor. I've tried to keep all these things separate. In the last year, it's getting a lot more difficult because, frankly, the stakes are getting too high. So I'm just not worried about keeping the walls up. I'm just trying to get information out to people as best I can. If you are a new subscriber, make sure you watch our COVID material. If you had any doubts that this thing was the scam of the century, those doubts will be gone after you watch it. Again, I don't know any source anywhere that's done such a thorough job and started early. We started February 1st, 2020, to let people know that this thing was rotten. And it continues to be rotten. As a public service announcement, let me say this again, and this is one of the things that got me banned from Twitter and had Google try to extort us. This vaccine is not approved for human use by the FDA. Okay, that is a fact. They can ban me and censor me all they want. All you have to do is go to the FDA's own website and read it. It is emergency. It's being distributed under the emergency use authorization, okay, which is a fraud because there is no emergency that justifies this, and there are other treatments for the disease. So the emergency use authorization is a fraud. But the idea of presenting this as FDA approved is absolute fraud. The FDA will not have its safety trials of this vaccine completed until 2023. And as corrupt as they are, and they are corrupt, they do follow some semblance of law. And they have procedures in place for evaluating therapies. And they take years, not 1 year, years. And one of the things they want to test, God bless their pointy little heads, is they actually wanted to, they claim to test safety. They fail 99% of the time, but they at least make a show of it, right? This thing is not approved. This thing's not approved. All right, so I want to get to today's topic. It's going to be a health topic. You've probably heard, maybe no, you probably haven't heard, but you may have heard that rice has a high degree of arsenic in it, more than any other food. Yes, arsenic. And, people drop that bomb on you and then they go, well, have a nice day. All right, so today I'm going to explain why rice has more arsenic in it than any other food, what you can do, and what you can do to protect yourself, and why you have to. Arsenic's a bad boy, and it's in a lot of products, unfortunately. And it is one of those things that contributes to cancer, and contributes to heart disease, and contributes to diabetes. It's not necessarily the only cause, but if you have that and other factors, dietary factors and other environmental factors, you're well on your way to getting one of those diseases. So you definitely want arsenic out of your body. One of the ways to get arsenic out of your body, and all heavy metals, by the way, is something called a far infrared sauna. Make sure it's far infrared sauna. Make sure it's made with good wood. You have to pay good money to get a good one. No point in getting a bad one. But if you want to sweat it out, I once virtually attended a multi-day conference on cancer. And at the very end of the multi-day, they asked all the alternative therapists, what's your number one tip for avoiding cancer. They all said we do, every one of them, and they weren't comparing notes. They all do a far infrared sauna every day, and maybe I'll do a special show on that at some point. We've got one at home. I don't use it every day, but we've got one, and I have no regrets of all the money I've spent. It's one of the nicest things to have in the house. So anyway, that's one way to get rid of heavy metals if you have them. But, when you go to a doctor and you are diagnosed with an ailment, the doctor invariably says, we don't know what causes it, and there is no cure. But we do have a lifetime of medication or a super expensive round of medications to treat the disease, okay? This is the fraud of medicine. If they tell you they don't know the cause, then it implies they can't prevent it, and it implies they can't cure it, and that all they can do is treat it. And this is the pharmaceutical industry's dream. They don't want anybody healthy. They want everybody sick, and they want everybody on their products. If you don't believe it, you're not paying attention to reality. But that's the bottom line on medicine. They have completely colonized medicine. Your doctor knows next to nothing. All he or she knows is, okay, if they got this symptom, I go to the book, and there's 3 drugs or surgical procedures, and that's it. Done. Not only do they only know that, they're only allowed to tell you about that. Just understand this. You may have a problem that can be cured quickly, simply, painlessly, inexpensively, and safely. And if it's not in that book, and the book is basically written by pharma, that doctor either doesn't know or knows and won't tell you. Just understand that about your local doctor, because that is the reality. So you want arsenic. You don't want to be consuming arsenic because it's a heavy metal, and heavy metals are a setup for all kinds of disease. So why is it that rice has so much arsenic in it? Well, if you think about how rice is grown, it's grown in water as a weed suppression technique. So if the land around the rice is contaminated, the rice, it will get into the water, and the rice will suck up a ton of whatever contaminant is in that water. And arsenic was used, I don't know if it's still used today, but it definitely was used heavily in spraying fruit trees. In fact, we have an arsenic water problem where I live. Our local water supply has, I think, 10 times the happy amount of arsenic in it, because we used to have a lot of active orchards, and they sprayed it with arsenic to kill the various bugs, and it's in the water. I mean, this stuff, you spray it, it's not going to disappear, especially heavy metal stuff. It doesn't break down. It may dilute over time, but it doesn't get composted, right? So anyway, the rice plant sucks up 10 times as many heavy metals as any other plant that we eat. So that's why rice has a high arsenic level. Now, if you look at 9/10 of the stories that tell you about high level of arsenic in rice, they never get into that. They just sort of drop the bomb and walk out the door. So now you know we have arsenic in rice because we have contaminated farm fields. So what do? You like rice. Rice is not a bad food. What do? Okay, number one, believe it or not, this is one thing California gets right. California has really strict agricultural testing laws. And if you're buying, especially there's a brand called Lundgren, Lungren, I think, Lundgren. It's a family-run business. They do not have anywhere near as much arsenic as anybody else. Anything overseas, Asia, East Asia, you just don't know. You just don't know. Louisiana, oh my God, I love Louisiana, but what a terribly polluted place it is. So Louisiana rice, no good. Texas rice, I'm sorry guys, Texas rice, terrible. They're growing rice in former cotton fields, and cotton fields are the most sprayed things on earth. So if you want to eat rice, get the California rice, get Lundgren rice, get wild rice, which you can actually find, and which isn't truly a rice, but it cooks a little bit like rice. You have to cook it a little longer, but it's delicious, and it's more nutritious than rice. And by virtue of the fact that it's growing in wild areas, not areas that are sprayed, you're going to have a fraction of the arsenic. Now, the other thing you can do is you can wash your rice. A lot of people don't wash their rice. You can do it, and you do it in this way. It's a 6-to-1 ratio. So 1 cup of rice, 6 cups of water. You put it in a bowl. You swirl it around with your hand until it gets cloudy. And it will get cloudy because there's a lot of crap stuck to those rice kernels. And you drain the water off, and then you repeat. Wash, rinse, and repeat. And eventually you'll get to the point where the water is pretty clear. At that point, you've removed up to 40% of all the stuff that adheres to the rice, which includes arsenic and other heavy metals. So why not do it? Why not do it? The other thing you can do is consider not eating brown rice or eating less brown rice. Problem with brown rice is the husk absorbs a lot of the contaminants, and if you get white rice, it's polished, and it does polish away the bad stuff. So, yeah, brown rice is a good thing, but maybe not every time you have rice. So that is the news for today. Rice. I defy you to try to find this material anywhere else. I mean, maybe if you really hunt, you'll find it, but it's quite difficult to find. It was difficult for me to find. I had to do quite a bit of research before I dug it up. So rice has more arsenic than any other food plant you'll ever eat. Oh, by the way, you got children, you got grandchildren, you got nieces and nephews that you love. Educate the moms because nobody's helping them. You don't want to be serving packaged rice food to infants and small children, right? Because they're very small, and any contaminant they get in their body is way more proportionally than we get, and it does build up and it sticks. So it's, worth the extra effort to clean, to get the good California rice, spend the extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes cleaning it, and then cook it at home and serve that to the kids, not the rice treats and the Rice Krispies and all the other demonically poisoned crap that's in the supermarket. The great joke is you go to a supermarket today and they've got 10,000 signs about wear a mask, no entry without a mask. And then, as soon as you walk through the threshold, you're walking down an aisle that's nothing but potato chips, industrial seed oils that are the root of 90% of people's illnesses these days. Then you go down the next aisle and it's all soda, corn syrup, which if the industrial seed oils don't kill you, the corn syrup will kill you. And then you walk down another aisle and it's literally a solid aisle of toxic, quote, air fresheners. So these supermarkets are, when you look at them with an educated eye, it's almost mind-boggling. They're practically toxic waste dumps, but they want you to wear a mask because, by God, if you don't wear a mask, terrible things are going to happen to you. So anyway, to all supporting subscribers, thank you very much. If you're not a supporting subscriber, I don't know where else you get this stuff. It's probably out there somewhere, but I never found it easy to find. And you do get the media you deserve. We may not get the government we deserve. We may not get the environment we deserve. We may not get the medical system we deserve. We may not get the educational system we deserve. We may not get the food purity we deserve. But by God, we get the media we deserve, because every day you're spending money on your cable, on your internet connection, maybe on the newspaper and some magazines. And if you're not supporting independent, truly independent media, you're not in the game. All right, this Brass Check. Thanks a lot. Bye.